Hi, everybody. It's Rebecca with Crafting and Crime Daily. Yes, if you listened to the Democratic National Convention last night, the theme was hope. I am holding out hope that this trial is going to end sometime soon, that this defendant's testimony is going to end sometime soon. We're going to talk about that. Hello. My name is Rebecca, and this is Crafting and Crime Daily. I'm your host, and I recap live trials. I'm currently covering the trial of Robert Teles, or Tejas, if you're Hispanic. This is a state of Nevada that is trying him for a murder of a person over the age of 60 with the use of a deadly weapon, which was never found, this weapon. Probably some sort of knife. It was a stabbing. This happened in September 2nd of 2022 after several articles were written by the victim, Jeff Gurman, who was a local reporter in Las Vegas and was known to cover crime, corruption, politics, cops, that kind of thing, And the articles were not very flattering. And as a result, Robert Tejas lost his bid for re-election of public administrator. So, was that a motive to kill this reporter? I don't know. In any case, we know that Robert Tejas is also a lawyer, and I did look it up to see if he's still a lawyer. He is still a lawyer. He's been in jail for 2 years pending this trial. I think he's being held with no bond, but he is in the process of being disbarred, is from what I understand. So, yeah, he won't be practicing law again, except today. Anyway, day 7 of this testimony. He started taking the stand, I think, the day before yesterday. Oh, no. It just seems like forever. The entire day was him yesterday. And I say the entire day. They don't have court for more than, I think testimony might have been 5 hours worth yesterday. Still lengthy, yeah. So we're going to talk about some more of his testimony. And when they got done yesterday, the state had finished their cross-examination. And then, given some of the things he had said, some of his responses to the state's questions, I think his redirect is going to be by narrative as well, which I think is a huge mistake. But that's what's happening today, the redirect, where he's going to try to address certain things that he said, oh, I'm going to address that later. Okay. So some of the things he brought up that he was facing the day that he attempted suicide, September 7th, I'll just bring you up to speed. The murder happened on the 2nd. By the 7th, they are suspecting him. They get a warrant to get a buccal swab from him. That's where they swab your mouth for DNA. So they wanted to get his DNA. They get a warrant for that. They get a search warrant for his home. And he's picked up around 7 o'clock-ish the next morning by a traffic stop. And once he stopped, they call the detectives. The detectives are like, oh, you're not detained. You're just going to come down with us. We want to ask you a few questions. And he's thinking, okay, and then they'll bring me back to my vehicle. But within a half hour of him going to get interviewed, they have his vehicle towed. So they interview him. And then while this search of his house is going on, and then they send him home. While they're interviewing him, and after he gets home, the forensic lab is running the DNA because there was DNA found under the fingernails of Jeff Gurman, the victim, an unknown male. So they quickly, I don't know how they did this so quickly. It's kind of unheard of, but they did the buccal swab, ran the DNA, and the DNA from the buccal swab of Robert Tejas matched Jeff German, matched what was under the fingernails of Jeff German. So he's trying to point out some things now to the jury. So the pants, if you look at the pants that they took off me that day, because during this interview, they asked him to take all his clothes off, and then they give him a paper suit. And he says, I was freezing. He says, but these are not the pants that the killer was wearing. They don't match what the killer was wearing. And he always referred to the killer, And he was asked by the state attorney, do you agree? Can we agree that you think this person in the video is the killer? And he says, yes, I agree. That's the killer, but that's not me. So the pants don't match the ones he's wearing that day, but this is like 5 days later anyway. I don't know why they're taking his clothes 5 days later, but whatever. So, because interestingly enough, they never looked in. There are no other pants in my house that were taken that match what they find they see in the video. Then he said, I was freezing in this paper suit and they were trying to break me. So they send him home. He said that during this interview, they said they were going to take his vehicles, and he wasn't allowed to make any phone calls. He wasn't allowed to have the advice of an attorney, because they kept saying, oh, you're not under arrest. We're not arresting you. We're just, we're just detaining you. So this is his mindset when he gets back home. And he's saying all this to say that, when he gets back home, he's like feeling the weight of being accused of this murder. And, now his wife has had to face this search warrant of her home. She was present during the search warrant. I don't know where the kids were, probably at school. But, he became distraught. He became, this is why he tried to commit suicide. I didn't do it because I felt guilty. I just didn't. He says, I had $1 million life insurance policy, and I thought, I'm going to make my wife comfortable and not have to have her go through all this pain. Okay. Then they also showed another reason, is when he got home from that interview, and he admitted some pictures that were shown to the jury of what his house looked like after this search. I mean, it was a mess. Like, they just turned this place upside down. He took pictures of every room, and he says, this is what I'm walking into. My wife, who's probably very upset with him, he didn't say that, but I'm sure she was. And then, because these people are upturning her home. So this is why he tried to commit suicide, so that she could get the life insurance policy and clean it up. He didn't want to put his family through any of this. Okay. Next page. Once he tries to commit the suicide, he said that Detective Jaffe comes over to the ambulance. He was actually trying to extract a confession from me. Now, I'm saying this like I don't believe it, because I don't believe it. I really don't. So he was trying to say that the emails between him and Roberta, and there were hundreds of pages of those that were requested by Jeff German, would not, if you read through those are not a motive for murder. And then he wanted them admitted into evidence. So then on the next break, there's like all this confusion going on. This is why I had to think about this note. There's all this confusion going on about, because he says, oh, the state's got those emails, they'll admit them. So the state's like, okay. And then there's all this confusion, because apparently what happened was there were 2 different sets of emails that Jeff German requested all the emails between him and Roberta on 3 different platforms, the Microsoft Teams, the personal ones, all of them. Well, apparently those were all gathered, but then they were sanitized by the powers that be, because they don't give up they have a policy in that office not to give up personal emails. So if you take all, so there was these emails, and then there was the emails minus what got taken out. So what are they producing? So I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? So he ends up withdrawing his request to enter him into evidence. Thank God, because yeah. So as far as September 2nd goes, he says he didn't leave his house early that morning. The earliest I might have left is like 9:10. Before that, he sent one text message. Then he said, I went out for a walk. And after that, he came back home and he goes to the gym. Now, later on in his testimony, it's brought out that on cross that he had incoming texts coming to him. And he said, at no time did I leave my cell phone at home. When I was walking, I had it with me. And when I was at the gym, I had it with me. Now, we know that his cell phone was pinging in his, I've been saying at his home. Not necessarily. It's a cell tower. It gives you a range. It was at or near his home. And this Planet Fitness is at or near his home. So, yeah, he could have had it on him. So, the state attorney shows him text from his phone. He says, you didn't delete anything. No, I didn't delete anything. Then he shows his wife's phone, her Apple Watch, that has one additional text on it that wasn't on his phone. And that additional text is her asking him, where are you? And that came at, I think, 10:35 a.m. And he's like, I was out for a walk. This is what he's telling the jury. I was out for my walk. This is the same time that his Yukon Denali is seen in the neighborhood of Jeff Garman. Then he was talking about his shoes, and he asked the judge, can I stand up? And he stands up, and he announces to the jury that he's 6'5". Now, I think he meant to say 5'5", because there's no way this guy is 6'5". He is not 6'5". And the reason he stood up was after he stood up, he says, as you can see, I'm 6'5". Well, I even went back. Did he really just say he's 6'5"? Yeah, he did say that, but I'm sure he meant 5'5". He sits down, he takes his shoe off that he's wearing, and he shows the jury that he puts lifts into his shoes, and that this is why he buys cheap shoes, so he can put lifts in it. He says, if you buy name brand shoes and you try to put a lift in it, you're just going to be slipping out of the shoe. Okay. I don't know why we needed to know this, because you're just admitting that this is your shoe. Yes. The sneaker was your shoe. The cheap Marshalls Ross sneaker, Nike sneaker that you had. Then with respect to Jeff Garman's address, he says, I didn't know his address. I've never been to this man's house. That morning he said he was watching TV, working, because by this time he's lost the election. He's working from home until he's sort of that lame duck situation, where you can't do anything. So he's working from home on his investigation of Compass Realty, because he continued his investigation after he lost the election. So he had something to do at home. Anyway, because that was brought out on cross. Why would Compass Realty? You lost the election. They got what they wanted. They put campaign funds into the other person's, campaign. She wins. Why would they set you up for a murder? Well, because after I lost, I still continued my investigation. I was continuing to go after them. Okay. He says, I am not the kind of person that would stab someone And this is how he ended his self-direct examination. Oh, one of the things he did mention, that one of the other things he was working on while he was at home, he was getting ready to file a lawsuit against those women that had surveilled him from the office and that were, went to Jeff German with this story. He was getting ready to file a lawsuit against them, probably for defamation or I don't know, whatever. Okay. So he agreed on cross-examination. Yes, this was a professional hit. Yes, that's what I believe. This was a professional hit. Well, why would a professional wear a goofy hat, a bright orange reflective shirt, and forget something that he might have left at the scene, like the murder weapon? Because as you recall, the killer leaves the scene and on foot gets in his vehicle and then pulls back up to the house, goes back to where Jeff German's body is. We don't know what he was doing. Obviously, gets back in his vehicle and leaves. So was he looking? Did he forget the knife at the scene? They've never found it. But why would how a professional killer would go through all that? And he says, anything's possible. That's his answer. Anything's possible. Then during his direct examination, he had talked about the rims of the car, the Yukon Denali that was shown on the video were different. The front were different from the back, and his match. So they showed him up close video footage of the killer inside this vehicle, and they showed the vehicle, and the rims do match. They do match, just like his do match. So that was debunked. Then he talks about how he thinks that the DNA was planted. He believes that when they took his DNA, it was planted somehow under the fingernails of Jeff German. And then, so the state was getting very sarcastic. So you're saying now that the DNA lab's in on this conspiracy? And he says, anything's possible. Okay. And this whole time he's answering because he's very smug and he's leaning like this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's very smug. Like this is a fact. Yeah. Anyway. And so the guy says, well, how would this Detective Jaffe, who he thinks planted the shoes under his couch, how would Detective Jaffe know that you have these shoes? Well, he had me under surveillance. Okay. So if you're being framed and they put the shoes and some other stuff in the house, why don't they put the orange reflective shirt in the house, or the pants, or the murder weapon? If they're trying to pin it on you, why not put the murder weapon in your house? He goes, I have no idea. I just know I didn't do it. I didn't put that stuff there that was found there. Then with the Google Map photos, the 132 Google Map photos of Jeff German's house and pictures of the exact location where the body was found, he said, I didn't put those on my phone. And he said, well, how did they get there? And he says, well, you heard earlier that these cloud accounts can be hacked, but there's been no evidence that your cloud account was hacked. Well, anything's possible. Then we get to the affair. Now, during this interview that he gave with Jeff German, he's vehemently denying this affair. And he admits, I was lying. I was lying. Yes, we were having an affair. He says, I wasn't lying about the office stuff, but yes, I was lying. Okay. So how do we know he's telling the truth now? He just destroyed his own credibility. Yeah, I was lying. So he agreed with the state. Wouldn't you agree that if those articles had never been written, you would not have lost the election? He goes, I would agree with that. I agree. And then the state showed a text between him and Roberta where he said that, you know, because of these articles, his job prospects were now going to be extremely limited because of these articles. And so he was asked about that. And he said, you know, do you admit that this is how you felt? He goes, well, they would be really limited if I committed a murder. Very good point. Very good point. Then I talked about his wife's Apple Watch. And yeah. So the state finished their direct. A lot of sarcasm, a lot of pointing out without directly pointing out that this guy's just got an answer for everything. And it's all people, you know, it's the police, it's the realty company, it's the people in the office. Everybody's got it out for this guy. And they all, you know, how they got together. Did they have like a meeting, or like, how did this happen? He says, I firmly believe that there was money was paid to Detective Jaffe to plant this stuff. And that he probably enlisted the help of some other people at the police department. So that's where they concluded for the day. Cross-examination is over. Now we're getting ready for the redirect. There's more. There'll be a day 8. It's probably happening as we speak. He's talking again. So I don't anticipate closings today. I do not. I think this redirect's going to go all day. I would bet that the jury has questions, and I can't wait to hear what these questions are going to be. It's going to be a good one, because I don't think this guy clearly thought this through. And I have to believe that his attorney is just cringing, because this is one of those clients you just can't control. You cannot control them. And they're going to do what they're going to do, and you just have to sit back and collect your paycheck, because the longer it goes on, the more hours he's got to pay you to sit there and agonize, you know. And he kept saying to his client, you know, just put the facts out there. I'll tie everything together during closing. He said it a few times. So it's craziness. It's craziness. And here's the thing, you know, in Sarah Boone's case, the woman that's going to be representing herself, not because she wants to, but because she just can't get along with the lawyers, 8 different lawyers, she's probably going to have to testify via narrative if she testifies. Same way he's doing. And that is going to be a piece of work. I can't wait for that trial. I can't wait for this one to be over. Let's move on. Anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. I will be live tonight at 7. What time am I? 6:30. 6:30. I'm going to be with Mickey Sunshine Creates, but I will be on my own channel, Crafting and Crime Daily, for my event, The Great Escape 2024. We're going to talk about that. We're going to do a giveaway. And we're going to see everybody's progress. You can see mine, which is not a lot because I haven't had a lot of time to diamond paint, but it'll be fun. So I hope to see you then. If not, I'll see you tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Take care, everybody. Bye.